Hey there internets, I'm Michael and this is Toucan Play That Game, bringing you a review of Light of Dragons, which comes in this oddly cuboid box. So let's start with what is Light of Dragons. Well, this is a game that kickstarted in 2015 and is now available. As I say, it comes in this gorgeous box. But what does this tell us about the game, other than the fact that we've got all this gorgeous artwork on the box and not a lot else? I mean, we've got some sort of spirit thing, a dragon, another dragon, a guy with magic, a guy with a huge axe, and then on the bottom, more spirity type things. Well, it tells us the setting at least. It is indeed a set in a fantasy world. You are on this planet, you're gathering your tribes, you're warring tribes, trying to wipe out the other tribes and be the most powerful. In reality, what that boils down to is actually an abstract game. Very much in the sort of style of the Duke or chess or Onitama. These are quite popular right now. And you have this board, you'll be moving your dice, and this is why it's a cube, because each one of these dice, each one of those sides of the dice is represented by one of those pictures on the box. This box is one of those dice in essence. And you move them around this grid, trying to take out each other's pieces. As you do, you get victory points. Number of victory points equal to the position it's in, plus the power of it. So the first one to 10 victory points wins the game. Let's take a look at the table for a closer explanation of how that all works. Start by putting your board out between both your players, and each player will need to pick if they're going to be black or going to be red. They'll then take the dice bag for that player. Then empty it all out, completely empty. The bag will then sit in your exile zone. So anytime one of your dice or creatures is killed, it will be sent to the exile. You also want to give each player one of these reference sheets. Now, this will tell them what each of the different creatures actually does. And there is more detail on this in the actual rulebook. So each side of these dice has a different number as well as picture representing the different creatures. All the dice in the game are identical except for the fact that they're two different colours. Each player will need to put their white cubes on the 0 points of their tracks. So one is for might points and the other one is for targeting points. The might points here represent how close you are to winning. If you get 10 might points, you win the game. These are your victory points. How you get these points is when you destroy a creature, you'll get might points equal to the value of that creature. Also, if the creature was in one of your bonus point zones, you'll get bonus points. So for the black player here, if they're in this row, they'd get an extra 1, here an extra 2, and here an extra 3. To start the game, each player will pick a dice to put in their supply zone, which is the first line here of their colour. We then move on to our battles. So this is where each player will take turns performing a main action. You can do a movement, which means moving to one adjacent space, not vertically, and with one exception, which is the number 5 here. He has a special ability that he moves diagonally rather than adjacently. Also, the number 2 here has a special ability for movement. And you can tell this because green represents movement. And on the reference sheet, you can see they have green. This number 2 can move 2 spaces rather than 1. In fact, he always moves 2. He can't move 1. Also, if he passes over another creature, because of his lifesteal ability, which is a passive ability represented by being in blue, he will reduce the level of that creature by 1. If it was already at 1, it would become exiled, which means you remove it and put it in the exile bag. There's no way to get dice back from the exile. The other option is to attack. Now, all attacking means is moving onto a space that has a creature of a lower value, with one exception. If you have a creature of level 6, which is this Sonic Dragon here, then this can be taken by a creature of value 3. So a value 3 creature can take a 1, a 2, or a 6. Obviously, 6 is the most powerful, being able to take every number and only being vulnerable to 3s. The next thing you can do as your action is to raise the level of one of your creatures. To do this, you simply turn it so it shows a higher level number. The final option of main action is to cast a spell. Now, the spells are different depending on the different creatures you have out, and these are shown on your reference sheet in purple. You'll keep going back and forth until a player hits 10 might points, including their virtual might points, at which point that player wins. Okay, so that's the overview of the game. Well, what do I think of it? I mean, art-wise, this box is stunning. I cannot stress this enough. Absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Unfortunately, that isn't then representative of the game as a whole. Yes, the rulebook does then have this art in, the exact same pictures as is on the box. But then the board is kind of drab, washed out colours, but perfectly functional. It's got scenery that actually plays no part in the game. The dice themselves, very nice custom dice, the images on them. But it's kind of hard to tell which relates to which if it wasn't for the fact that in the rulebook it gives you the numbers, and you could just kind of play this with D6s saying this number has this special power, this number has that special power. What about components? Well, the board is actually pretty good quality there, so no complaints there. Box, good quality. The bags that you store the dice in and you put them in when you kill them, so you're kind of packing up as you go. Good. The cubes, good. The dice themselves, I love these large dice. They remind me of Seasons. It would be great if you were actually rolling them though, and in this game you don't. They're just tokens that you're turning over, really. You didn't need them to be dice. But they are nice dice. And so that's all the components. Well, what about the gameplay? As I've already said, it's a very similar game to many abstract games out there. If you like things like chess, Go, drafts, checkers, Onitama, the Duke, you know, that kind of back and forth, no luck whatsoever, pure strategy game of combat, then you'll probably like this. If you want one that has a very pasted on fantasy theme, but has these special powers for the different troops type notion, and the ability to adjust what your troops are, to ebb and flow, defend, you know, sacrifice pawns in order to try and take, it is very much that style of game. Now, me personally, I enjoy this kind of play a little. The game box says it's a 10 to 30 minute game. Now, I don't know if it's the people I play with or have played with, but we tend to end up just being kind of deadlocky, moving around for a very long time. It is very cerebral, very thinky. It is an engaging game in that way, but it isn't a fun game. The lack of randomness there, and I've said before, I do like a bit of randomness in my games, means there's no excitement. It's just like if you've ever watched a chess game, you know, just focused, moving your pawns around. So as I say, if you like that type of game, you will like this. Now, of course, two can play that game. Can two play this game? Well, yes, it's a two-player only game, in fact. You'll only be playing this with two-player, and there's no scope for more. So, what's my verdict? Well, is it one I would keep? Yes, purely for this box, actually. I want to have this sat on my shelf. It is so pretty. The only question is, which way to sit it? You know, which is the best side? With regards to the gameplay, if I was more into those kind of abstract games and wanted one with a fantasy theme, then I probably would like this more. So that is my thoughts on Light of Dragons. I do hope you found this video useful. If you have, please do check out the rest of the videos on the channel, as well as subscribing to the channel and sharing it with your friends and family. And do also check us out on social media. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.